Hello, I hope everyone's doing really well this week. So this week's lesson is going to be Introduction to Adding and Subtracting Rational Expressions. Since this is an introduction, we're going to have things like lowest common denominator, least common multiple, and a little bit of adding and subtracting, but it's not going to be as complicated as next week. Next week, we will continue the lesson on adding and subtracting rational expressions, but we will have more complex problems. But before we do adding and subtracting rational expressions, let's look at what adding and subtracting just a regular fraction is like. First, I'm going to show you an example with like denominators, and then an example with unlike denominators. So with like denominators, all you do is add the numerators and keep your denominator the same. So I would rewrite this as 1 plus 2 all over 5. I would keep the same denominator, which would ultimately give me 3 over 5. Now, once you have your answer, you check, can I reduce? Yes or no? And it looks like we cannot reduce, so this would be our final solution. Okay. In the next example, we have unlike denominators. We have to find common denominators. I need to find the lowest common denominator. To do that, we find the least common multiple between the denominator 6 and the denominator 8. Now, the least common multiple between 6 and 8 is 24. Because 6 times 4 is 24 and 8 times 3 is 24. So both of them have a number you can multiply with and get 24. So what I need to do is I need to multiply this first fraction by the number that would give me a denominator of 24, and I need to multiply that same number in the numerator and in the denominator. What that allows me to do, it allows me to change the way the fraction looks without changing the value of the fraction. I'm essentially multiplying by the number 1, but the denominator and the numerator are both a number other than 1. So let me show you real quick. So I would write negative 5 over 6, and then I would multiply this by 4 over 4. This is essentially 1. Okay, this is 1. But I'm multiplying by 4 over 4 because I want 24 in the denominator. Plus 3 over 8, and I'm going to multiply this by 3 over 3 because 8 times 3 is what gives me 24. So I need to multiply by 3 over 3 right here. And then I simplify. Negative 5 times 4 is going to be negative 20 over 6 times 4 is 24. Plus 3 times 3 is 9 over 8 times 3 is 24. And now we have like denominators, which is what we want. We want to get like denominators. Now that we have like denominators, we can do what we did previously, which is put this all together. So negative 20 plus 9, and all of this is going to be over 24. And now negative 20 plus 9, in the next step, we simplify. Negative 20 plus 9 is negative 11 over 24. And then we check, do we need to reduce? Yes or no? And it doesn't look like 11 can be factored to a number that reduces with 24. So this is our solution here. Okay, so for example 1, we are going to find the least common multiple between two values, between two expressions. The least common multiple is also known as the LCM. Now, in order to find the least common multiple, one way of doing it is by listing all of the factors. So I'm going to list the factors of 6, b to the 4th. Below that, I'm going to list the factors of 9, b to the 2nd. And then I'm going to list the factors of the lowest common multiple. Okay? Now, the factors of 6 are 2 times 3, or I should say the prime factors. And then we're just going to keep b to the 4th as it is. Don't forget the time symbol here. And then the factors of 9, the prime factors of 9 are 3 times 3, and then we have b to the 2nd. Now, for the lowest common multiple, we write each factor that was shown previously except for the ones that repeat. The ones that repeat are going to be counted once. For example, 2 is only shown up once, so we're going to count it once. But 3 shows up both in 6b to the 4th and in 9b squared. So even though it's here in the first term and in the second term, we're not going to write it twice. We're just going to write it once for both of these. And then 9b squared has an additional 3, so we're going to put another 3, okay? So we have a 2 and 2 3s right here. And then we write the highest value between b squared and b to the 4th. Well, that would be, the highest exponent would be b to the 4th, okay? And then this is our lowest common multiple. We just need to simplify it now. So 2 times 3 is going to be 6, and then 6 times 3 is equal to 18, and then we have b to the 4th. And that is the lowest common multiple between 6b to the 4th and 9b squared. Okay, so here we have example 2. Example 2 is find the least common denominator, also known as the LCD. Now, the only difference between the least common multiple and the least common denominator is that this is an actual denominator. It's a piece of a fraction. Previously, we just had listed values, so we just needed to find the least common multiple. We're still finding the least common multiple, but this time we're doing it for actual denominators. So we're doing the same thing. So we're going to find the factors of x minus 6, the factors of x minus 1, and then their lowest common denominator or the lowest common multiple. Now the factors of x minus 6, it only has 1. It's just x minus 6. Same thing for x minus 1. It just has one factor of x minus 1. So the lowest common denominator is going to be each of the separate factors. So we're going to have a factor of x minus 6 and a factor of x minus 1. Now, we could multiply this out, but I'm going to keep it factored, so we don't need to simplify any further. This is our lowest common denominator. Okay, in the next video, I'm going to show you examples 3 and examples 4, where I show you more on finding the lowest common denominator, both with binomials and with quadratics.